Alrighty, everyone. So good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming. Before we begin, I will be introducing our speaker today, Miss Lopez. Miss Lopez leads admissions, outreach, pathway programs, and financial aid for the David Geffen School of Medicine at UCLA, where she has been actively involved in holistic review processes and applicant selection. She's also involved in the American Association of Medical Colleges, where she has served on preview-related working groups, the Pre-Med Core Competencies Working Group, and the Summer Health Programs Education Program through the AAMC. Prior to work at UCLA, Ms. Lopez served as executive director of full-time recruitment at Pepperdine University's Graziado Business School, where she directed worldwide market development, student recruitment, and enrollment management for the full-time MBA and specialized master's programs. Ms. Lopez holds a master's in international management degree from Thunderbird School of Global Management in Arizona, a Bachelor of Arts in French, and a Bachelor of Science in Business from West Virginia Universities. Everyone, please welcome Ms. Lopez.
Thank you so much, Matthew, and welcome to all of you. Very excited to have the chance to chat with you here today. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with some slides here. All right, and hopefully everybody can see that just fine. So we're going to have a little bit of time to kind of, take a look through some insider tips to help you stand out in the admissions process. But we'll also get to some of your questions today too. So I'm going to focus on a few things today. One is what you should expect in applying to medical school. What is holistic review? And how is your application reviewed? So these are some big topics, I know, but I'll do my best here to shed some light on that. All right, so let's start here at your computer, at your desk. And really, I get a lot of questions from folks. I saw this online, somebody advised me to do that. But really, when it comes down to it, applying to medical school and your journey to the field of medicine begins with you. And more than that, your application to medical school is the story of you. So always keep that in your mind. It needs to reflect who you are, what you do, what your interests are, and what your big dreams are for your career in the long run. With all of that said, the application process to medical school can be a very lengthy one. Well, not can be, it is. With preparing for the MCAT and other exams like Preview or Casper, as well as just getting all of your application materials together. It's a big endeavor. So each year on May 1st, the AMCAS application opens. So for this academic year, it will open May 1st, 2025, where you can begin working on your application. The application can actually be submitted at the end of May. And then our deadline at our school for that application will be October 5th. Now, all of that to be said, you're applying potentially in May 2025 to start medical school in the fall of 2026. So again, it is kind of a long timeline. It's good to keep that in mind. So I'd like to talk first about, what happens once you click the submit button. What's happening behind the curtain there? And we'll do a bit of a dive into the secrets of what's going on the back end once you do that. So when you click the submit button, of course, your application gets submitted to AMCAS. But if you're an early applicant, let's say you're working on it in May or June and you submit at that time, well, guess what? Medical schools don't even get your application yet. Usually that data doesn't even transmit to medical schools until the end of June. And then after that, sometimes it takes a while for your application documents to come in, your letters of recommendation and other things. So it can be a few weeks after that, even before medical schools might receive your complete application. So it's good to kind of sit tight and wait once you submit it. Really, the application year, the year that you're applying, it's a lot of waiting to see what happens, but patience is definitely a virtue in that year. So at our school, at the David Geffen School of Medicine at UCLA, we typically receive about 10,000 applications or more per year for just 175 spots in our entering class. So is it competitive? Most definitely it is. But how does a medical school go through all of those applications to choose that small number of applicants that will put into the class again? We use a holistic review process. The part of the process is our mission. So I'm sharing that with you here on the slide. And once applications come in, they proceed through a process where, again, they're holistically reviewed many times through screening, interviews, and our admissions committee. And we seek applicants who are showing potential to become the next generation of outstanding physicians and something more. So we're looking for folks who not only want to become outstanding physicians, but also folks who want to become leaders, community advocates, scientists, educators, and much, much more. That and depends on you and your goals. So, definitely dream big, think deep when you're preparing your application. And all of this fits our mission to deliver leading edge patient care, research, education, and community engagement. So again, the methodology that we use and medical schools across the country are using is holistic review. So what is holistic review? You've probably heard about this a lot. But really, it is a way of assessing the whole application and everything in it in equal parts. So balanced consideration is given to your experiences that you detail in the application, your attributes, and your metrics. And I included kind of a model here, and you can find this model online as well, by the American Association of Medical Colleges, that really explains all of the different things that pack into each of these three different things: experiences, attributes, and metrics. So we consider all of these in combination to make an assessment on every application. So if you think about it, I know, again, I get a lot of questions. Well, if my MCAT is this and my GPA is this, can I get in? But it's much, much more than that. And one key thing to keep in mind is if you don't mention something in your application, something that may be important, it can't be considered. So you're wondering about how you prepare your application to all of the important things that you bring. So how does the admission process work overall? And we have a rolling admissions process. Not every school does. But what rolling means is that we're considering applications as they're received within the period from, when we start receiving that application data, end of June, all the way up until our deadline. We'll continue to receive and review applications. And we're going to give consistent mission-related evaluation for each application. And there's so many stages involved and a lot of folks who are giving input at different stages. we have separate teams working on that. So here's kind of an overview for you to take a look at. All right. So now with all of that said, that brings us to this very important question. What is the secret to stand out, and how do I prepare a winning application? So let's talk about that. I'm going to share some deep secrets here. Here's one of them. I put it in yellow, really to stand out. That is why medicine. Why medicine? So there's so many fields out there, so many professions you can pursue. So it's important on the application that you clearly state and articulate why medicine is your choice. What kind of triggered or inspired you to go into this field? Why is this your passion? Why do you need a degree to become a physician versus maybe becoming a dentist or pursuing a different career? So you'll want to clearly articulate that in the application. And this is really one of the first things that our medical school looks at. And it's something that's often missed by applicants by not clearly articulating why this profession is your passion and why it's important for you to achieve your career goals in the long run. So again, a compelling, well-articulated explanation in your application is critical. The next step is making sure that you have the academics that are needed. And this is where you're going to demonstrate that you can handle the academic rigor of medical school coursework. Schools across the country are schools of no exception. One of the folks who have the ability to handle this tough coursework the first second year of medical school. So you want to demonstrate that you do that. And at our school, we're looking for folks that not only have achieved in, the sciences, math, and other types of coursework, but have creative and intellectual engagement, and that they have enthusiasm for learning, and psychosocial maturity as well. So all of those things are looked for. And so there's a description here in the blue box of the different types of academic competencies that we look for. So we're not looking for specific courses that you've taken, but that you have strong competencies in these different areas, including an awareness of healthcare delivery, human diversity, research experiences, and then attainment of knowledge in the various areas listed here, and attainment of skills in these other areas too. So again, writing and communication skills. Sometimes folks think, oh, medicine, it's all about science and math, but it's definitely much more than that. Physicians need to also be able to communicate, write, have people skills, be leaders, be great on teams, and all of those different types of things. And all of this information is also on our website. So beyond our mission, we're also looking for applicants who are well prepared to succeed in medical school. And through the preparation, demonstrate their commitment to pursue the field overall. So, these things are all important. Your academic achievement. The way that you can demonstrate that on the application is through your GPA and transcript, your MCAT score, and any awards that you may have received. I'm often asked about non-traditional students, and some of you may be non-traditional students. you may have taken courses some time ago, or you may be taking some time before you apply to medical school out a few years from now. But all of that, if you have the academic background, that's demonstrated in your transcripts, in your MCAT score, no worries at all. So you will be in good shape to apply. So we're looking for applicants who know and love what they're getting into by in entering the field. So we're looking for folks who have some experience with clinical research and patient care settings. All of that is critical to the field. So having some experience with that, or even beyond that, a contribution in those areas is very important. Then third, service and advocacy. So medicine is a field that's dedicated to serving those in need and helping vulnerable populations. And so how do you demonstrate that? So you'll want to think about that and make sure that you can have some experiences that you can speak to, some things that you've learned and that you can bring to the table, some passions and interests and goals along those lines as well. And then fourth is interpersonal and validation. So this part of the application involves your letters of recommendation, your personal statement, your interview, and in our case, your preview exam score. So all of this really indicates some external validation of the things that you've talked about in your application. Your letter writers, for example, can indicate, skills that you've learned or things that you've demonstrated that they've observed, your ability to follow through on things or be a leader. And all of that is important to kind of back up what you've said in the application about yourself. I wanted to take a deeper dive into all of these things because, again, for our application review, it's extremely critical to not only demonstrate that you have, some clinical experience that you've been involved in community service, and that maybe you have some research experience or exposure. Research itself is very important, but definitely some things that isn't classification. But in all of these, you can go a step further. As I mentioned before, it's pretty competitive when you apply to medical school, and certainly to our school. So to make your application really stand out, you can do some things to kind of enhance these experiences as much as possible. So we're looking at not only these four things, of course, that you're showcasing in your application, but we look at the degree of motivation that you have by your portrayal of your preparation of these experiences. What do I mean by that? What I mean is that, so in your academics, certainly your academic performance is important. Did you get an A? Did you get a B? How did you perform in these different types of classes? But you could take it a step further and actually, in those classes, forge relationships with your faculty members, especially those that you click with. They could later become letter of recommendation writers for you, but also in forging a relationship, you really get to know them better and you learn more about the subject area too through your relationship. But you could take it even a step further from that and earn honors and distinctions in your academics as well, which really will make your application to medical school stand out of the crowd. For the second one, clinical experience. So, demonstrating that you have some familiarity with a clinical environment, or you've kind of seen that maybe through shadowing, is great. You know what it looks like in a clinical setting, you know what people do, what types of patient cases there may be, but you could enhance that further by actually contributing. If you could contribute in a clinical or patient care setting, it definitely gives you the opportunity to learn. So working with patients or assisting in some leader is actually even more valuable than simply showing. We can take that even further and, through employment or other types of work, make independent and very meaningful contributions in a clinical experience. And that's going to, again, make your application even stronger and stand out more. Same thing with community service. You could be the person that shows up every now and then to help out for a couple of hours, or your application would be stronger if you were the person that's making an impact for that community service, that's leading an initiative or coming up with a new proposal or even leading a team. All of that really shows your dedication and commitment, much more than just showing up for a couple of hours. And then fourthly, in research, again, this is all similar, but there's different gradations of what you can do to make your application stronger. Having some experience in research is helpful. If you could even have a publication or a presentation of your research, definitely would amp up your application more, or independent research even more so. Now, not everybody can do that in all of these different categories. We totally understand. You have limited time in your busy, busy days to do this. So you can pick and choose, but follow your heart in these. Find things that you really enjoy, continue with those, and see if you can make greater contributions over time. If there are things you're engaged in that you really, it isn't your cup of tea, you can leave those. Find new experiences that really, draw your passion and your interest, and continue with those and grow in those. Your goal will be to continue learning and growing in each of these 4 areas as much as you can. If you feel like you've got to a point, maybe you were president of a club, now what? Maybe you've learned as much as you can and grown as much as you can in that organization. You may want to move on to something new where you can continue growing and learning. All right. So to summarize, students who are all committed to their role, to making a lifelong and demonstrate this preparation are very successful in our admissions process. So as you prepare to go to medical school, I mentioned becoming an outstanding physician and something more. So give some thought to what your dreams are for your career. If you look down the road, 10 years, 20 years, what is your life calling? Take some time to really think about that. Really define what that is. What does it look like? What would you want to be doing, in 10, 20 years from now? And start working on that today. You can already start taking steps toward that, career goal, toward your dream job that you want to achieve. And all of those experiences, the things you learn, you can tie into your application to make it a very compelling application and really stand out in a very competitive landscape. All right, next question then for you. What if you need help? This is not an easy process, especially if you're doing it alone. If you're working, you're going to school, you're busy, it's really, really tough. So you've got questions, we've got some assistance for you. So at our school, we offer weekly virtual office hours with our admissions team. So sometimes it can be hard to talk with admissions officers and really get a good answer to your questions, especially as you're preparing your application or trying to figure out what you need to do next. So feel free to drop in. It's Wednesdays at 11 a.m. Pacific time. We would be happy to chat with you anytime. Also, we're here for pre-meds as well. So if you're thinking of applying to medical school down the road, guess what? We have pathway programs that are free of charge that you can apply to. Those are coming out this fall. We have summer health education program, which is a 6-week free summer program on our
Your
campus.
your audio broke up a little bit.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is my signal a little choppy?
Yes.
Yeah, is it better now or still choppy?
It's better now, yes.
Okay, all right. Great. Well, we've got excellent free pathway programs that you can apply to. You can join us at outreach events. We can link you into our student group that assists folks, our medical students who assist pre-medical students. And also we have a pre-med and pre-health guidance center where you can sign up for virtual appointments online anytime, 5 days a week. So we hope to see you at some of these things coming up. And then finally, we have a couple of webinars as well. So just mentioning those here. We have a fall info session in October. And we have a planning your finances for medical school on September 20th. All right, and here's a quick QR code if you would like to find out more information from our school. All right. So I will just stop sharing here. I want to thank everybody for that. All right. So I know that was a lot of information. I could go on and on about this all day, but I am sure that you may have some questions.
All right, starting off with our first question. Does the UCLA system filter out by GPA? Like, is there a cutoff?
We do not have any GPA cutoffs. So we do look at every application that comes in.
Alrighty, for our next question, I was wondering actually if you could bring up the EAM, like the holistic review chart again. Someone was asking, what is the purpose of the bullseye layout of the EAM chart? Does the proximity of the rings to the center indicate importance?
Great question. And actually, I could screen share on this slide again. That's helpful. And there you are. Yes, so the this particular layout was developed by the American Association of Medical Colleges, not by our school, but the layout of it does not indicate any difference in importance for these different statement to your letters of recommendation, to your transcripts and other things, all of it gets equal weight in our consideration.
Alrighty, for the next question, what does it mean to have awareness of healthcare delivery?
Yeah, and that's a great and very insightful question, I think. So what medical schools are looking for are folks who want to become physician. That seems a little too simple, right? But that's really at the core of it. So how do you know you want to be a physician? Well, it's hard to know if you've never seen or experienced a patient care setting or a clinical setting. So that's where that comes from. Having the opportunity to volunteer or work with patients or in a clinical hospital or other type of setting really gives you the opportunity to experience that and see if that's something that you enjoy and that you want to do more of. So that's why having those experiences really enable you to explore the field and identify if this is something that's for you, or if you may prefer, something different.
Thank you very much. For the next question regarding research, is clinical research a good experience on our application, or is wet lab research, does wet lab research look better? So is there a difference between what type of research you do?
Yeah, great question. So for research for our school, it's not a requirement to have research experience. So you can certainly apply without it, not a problem. However, if you have research, any kind of research, it is definitely a plus on your application because research in general is very important to the medical field. So many discoveries come from it. If we just think about, COVID-19 and the amazing research that went on to develop a vaccine in lightning speed, all of that is necessary, and physicians need to understand how these things come about. I think I'm a little bit choppy again, so my apologies for my signal.
Alrighty. So for the next question, do you accept pre-interview application updates?
Sorry, can you repeat that? Yeah, cut out.
Do you accept pre-interview application updates?
Oh, uh, understood. So we tend to consider the application complete at the time of submission. So once all of your documents come in, we consider it complete because we start with our rolling admissions process. We start reviewing applications the moment they are complete. You can add additional documents later to your application, but depending on how quickly we move through, we may not have the opportunity to evaluate those other documents.
Alrighty. For the next question, can you speak to how the team reviews post-bac students that have struggled to raise their GPA despite succeeding in all post-bac coursework? So, even if someone takes a post-bac, do you look at the cumulative GPA then, or do you look at like the last 90 units or something like that?
Yeah, another good question. We will look at all of it. So really a review of all of your transcripts is conducted. Now, there are some myths out there, at least again for our school, that maybe if you have a grade that you felt like you really could have done better. Maybe your grade wasn't where you wanted it to be. A lot of people think, well, there's no way you can get into medical school. But at least in our case, that is completely untrue. Often some things that we will note in looking at all of your transcripts and all of your grades is if maybe you struggled in the beginning and later were able to pick up your grades and do much better later on. That's definitely something that we would consider important because it demonstrates that you have the ability to take on a challenge and overcome it. And that's something that physicians have to do all the time. They're always presented with very challenging situations and have to find solutions and overcome it and achieve success. So, that's one way that you can demonstrate that.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Someone asked if you can give some examples of how maybe students can get research experience, or what are some examples of having clinical experience?
Yeah, there's a variety of ways. Again, I feel like my signal is a little bit choppy. My apologies for that. It's been a little touch and go today. But research and experience can sometimes be challenging to get. And we understand that depending on where you're at and the opportunities that you have available. So if it's possible, you might try to look on your campus and see if there are research studies that are going on. Even research studies that may not be medically related also can give you valuable research experience. You can take on research projects yourself as well, even research in your community. And sometimes those could be presented at conferences, in your classes, or even to civic organizations. So all of those things, would be valuable for your research experience.
I'm gonna make a plug. We're gonna have somebody who's gonna come and talk about summer research programs where they're all over the country and they'll pay you, some of them pay you up to $8,000 to do research for the summer. So there's a lot of programs that are out there for research. We'll also have the NIH director of training, and a program is going to come and speak. I believe she'll be speaking in November. Um, and so there's going to be a lot. We're doing a bunch of sessions for summer research program.
Those sound like incredible experiences. Yeah, that's definitely great to know about.
Alrighty, for our next question, someone is asking, what attributes or experience do you feel are often overlooked by applicants, but the UCLA holistic admissions process actually highly values these?
Yeah, there's a lot of things like that. And again, I'll go back to saying your application really is the story of you. Think about, and it's great to take some time to really, sit down with your laptop or a piece of paper and draft out all the things you can think of that you're involved in and that make you who you are and got you to where you are today. Each of you is incredibly unique, and you have so many things. One thing that often is overlooked is sometimes applicants may have had their own medical condition that they've been struggling with, perhaps for years. They may have been in the hospital or dealt with this for a considerable amount of time. That is actually we would consider patient care experience because you've experienced it, maybe not from a clinician standpoint, but from a very valuable patient experience. So that would be one example of that, or caring for a family member who has a critical illness as well.
Alrighty, thank you so much. So for our next one, how do admissions view completing pre-med course requirements at community college versus a dedicated postdoc program for career changes postgraduate?
Yeah, I would say all of them are valuable. So you can most definitely take courses at a community college, take those upper level courses to make sure that there are no gaps, that you have a very rich background academically to bring forward. You can also do that through a post-bac. So the choice is yours. And folks across the country, I think roughly 50% of medical school applicants now are deciding to take some time after they finish their bachelor's degree to get extra coursework or work a bit more or do a post-bac and then apply later. So you would be in excellent company if you chose to do that.
Alrighty, for our next question, do you recommend that students start looking into internships in community college, even though they're like taking prerequisites to transfer to four-year universities?
Yeah, I think it's important. So one strategy that I think is very valuable for everyone. So if you're in your first year of community college, or if you're further along, in your college career, wherever you're at, you're working towards something. Each and every one of you taking on a tremendous amount of work and responsibility to get your college degree to move on with your career. It's not a small thing to do, as you know. And so you're working very hard towards something. That is to achieve your dreams, to achieve your life calling. So think, and I mentioned this before, but think farther out. What do you want to be doing, let's say 20 years from now? What would be your dream job? What communities would you want to be helping? What type of work would you want to be engaged in? Knowing that now, and again, I think my signal is choppy, my apologies. But knowing that now, you can already get started working toward that. You don't have to wait until you get into medical school. You don't have to wait until after medical school. You can start working toward that now. One example, let's just say, if your life dream is to work with children who have cancer, right? If that's what you want to be doing in 20 years, well, guess what? Even today, if you're a first-year community college student, you can find opportunities to, let's say, work with children or assist those who have cancer or work with others in need. Start building those skills, start building that experience, building blocks to help you step by step get to your dream. You could start a fund drive to get toy donations to take to a local children's hospital, for example. All of these things help you work on your goals today and continue doing that until you get to that goal years down the road. But never stop and don't lose sight of that dream that you have down the road.
Yeah, there's an organization called Camp Kesem where they take kids that have cancer to summer camps. And if, it's kind of like saying, it's kind of saying like, I want to win the Olympic gold medal in the 100-meter dash, but I've never run, or I want to run in the Olympic marathon, but I've like never ran. So you can't just show up to the Olympic medal to win the gold medal. You gotta like start first, like the first local 10K or running at high school, or so you gotta kind of build up. You just can't, and you can't say you want to do something that you've never experienced. And so, yeah, I think that's
Yeah,
kind of like,
exactly. Absolutely. And so what I'm challenging each and every one of you to do today is, and it's hard to jump right into this, but I would take some time, as soon as you can get some time, to really think ahead, define what you want to be doing down the road. What is your dream? Again, what is your life calling? You're putting in a lot of work right now. What do you want to achieve? And you can say, I don't know. I don't know yet. I'm not sure precisely what I want to do, and that's okay. But you have some idea, otherwise you wouldn't be here, this evening. So start there. And the more experience you get, the more things you try, you'll be able to follow your heart and say, gee, I tried this volunteer activity. It just didn't sync with me. I'm not really interested in that. That's fine. Drop it. Do something else. Find the things that you love doing and do more of those things. That is going to help you define what you want to do down the road. And little by little, you're going to have a much clearer and clearer picture of what that end goal is going to be.
Thank you very much. Alrighty. So for our next question, are the halfway programs for students from any institution? This person in particular, I'm a community college student and was just wondering if it could apply to us as well.
Okay, I'm sorry if you could repeat that.
No, they want
So
to know if your pathway programs like UCLA, SMDP, PrEP, and all those, are they open to community college students?
Oh, all right. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, so absolutely. We do have a program that is open to community college students called the Summer Health Professions Education Program, that is offered by the American Association of Medical Colleges. So we're one of about 12 sites across the nation that are offering this program. Thank you very much for dropping that in chat. This is an excellent program. The application for this coming summer will open on November 1st. So I encourage anyone in community college or in the first or second year of their bachelor's program to consider applying to that. And again, it's free, so can't beat that.
Yeah, and I could say that I think we had a medical student panel, 6 medical students, and all of them were former community college students from UCLA. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
alrighty, for our next question. This person worked in clinical research for only 2 months and then moved over to patient care. During those 2 months, I accumulated a decent amount of experience in hours. Should I share that on my application?
Yeah. Once again, your application is going to be the story of you. So you're going to want to give some consideration to that in terms of all of the other experiences that you've had. So what I would say on your application, you're going to have to decide what experiences that you've had are the most significant and important in defining who you are. The ones that you've learned the most from, the ones that have been the most impactful. In some cases, you can't put everything, so you're going to have to make some choices. So significance is the key. If you don't have any other research experience at all, you might choose to put that on there. Maybe it doesn't have tons and tons of hours, but at least it shows that you know a bit about that and you can speak about the things that you learned there. But let's say you later have another research experience and maybe you do that for a year or two. Then you may not want to put the first one, if that makes sense. So that's why I really encourage everyone to, again, make an appointment with yourself. Maybe when you have, holiday time or something like that, to make an appointment with yourself to sit down at your computer and start a list of all the things you've done, how significant things, which things were the most significant. Start that list now. You'll use it later on, but keep adding to it. And I would revisit that list every 6 months and keep adding to it. Maybe identify new things that you want to do, and make a plan for yourself how to achieve those in the next semester, and then come back to it and review that list and keep adding. That's going to be a great way to keep yourself on track.
Alrighty, so for our next question, some people asked about the pathway programs. Are they also for post-doc students, or non-traditional students?
Yes, absolutely. So there are pathway programs for every stage. So at our school, we have a program called the PrEP program, which is available to juniors, seniors, and people who have already graduated from their bachelor's program. Again, this program is free. It's a summer program that's on site at our campus. We have a variety of these different types of programs. Other medical schools and universities do too. So I would definitely look at the universities maybe that are around you or of interest to you and see what programs are available there. But you can also reach out to our pre-health guidance center, and we can assist you with that too, to help you explore those that are available for you.
I would just add that I'm putting a lot of these links in the chat. I'm not doing them for myself, so I would say click on those and save them and look at them because there's a lot of information on there. Um, because there's like literally, I don't know these stuff by heart. I'm actually looking on the website.
Yeah.
Alrighty, for our next question, is there a disadvantage for career changes in their 30s?
Oh, yeah. No disadvantage, I would say. So medical schools, and especially our medical school, we look at applications, basically what's on the application. So if you have more experience, let's say you're applying when you're 30 years old, you've probably been working, going to school, doing many things, and achieving many things in your life. You're going to bring that forward in your application. That can make your application stronger. Sometimes people may have a master's degree or have, done other things in their life. So whatever you can bring to the application can make your application stronger. So the only caveat is forgetting to put things on the application. We see that happen more than we'd like to see. So you want to kind of, again, take stock of everything that you have so you make sure to bring forward your most significant things.
Someone asked about the interviews that will be conducted for the med school as well as Prime LA. Are they are group interviews traditional or multiple mini interviews?
Yeah, great question. So at our school, we have 3 program tracks. We have our traditional MD program and our Prime Leadership and Advocacy program and our MD PhD program. And so 3 different ones. So the interview process is a bit different for each of those programs. And interestingly, you can apply to more than one. So that's kind of a cool feature, and you're considered independently for each of those 3 programs. The traditional MD program has traditional interviews with faculty members. So that'd be like a 30-minute interview, 2 of those with faculty members. The Prime Leadership and Advocacy program, though, has multiple mini interviews. So it's a bit of a different method, not the traditional interviews. And then our MSTP program, which is the MD PhD, has traditional interviews as well.
Thank you very much. In your experience, what characteristic or quality do you most look for in an applicant? Is there an applicant or application that stands out to you even now? So like a specific, I guess, experience someone may have or something.
Yeah. Well, a lot of things. Again, you remember that that wheel for holistic review that I was sharing with you earlier. There's so much that goes into it. But I would say a great way to prepare for your application. The American Association of Medical Colleges has a workbook called the Anatomy of an Applicant. And so you can take a look online for that. It's Anatomy of an Applicant. And that workbook is excellent. What it does is, medical schools across the country came together to agree on 4 competencies that all medical schools are looking for in applicants. And so those are detailed out in this workbook. And the workbook actually provides spaces where you can take each competency and write about, the experiences that you've had that have enabled you to develop that competency. I highly recommend going through that workbook for anyone that is applying to medical school. Do it in advance. What it will do is it'll get you familiar with these important competencies, help you think about your experiences, the things that you've done before. And I'll give you an example. Let's say teamwork, right? Teamwork is very important in medicine. So you can write about the different experiences you've had that have helped you to develop your teamwork skills. Maybe another one is leadership. So you could write about, the experiences you've had to develop your leadership skills. Going through all of this will make it much easier when you start writing your personal statement and your essays for the application, because you can already recall all of these things and put that into how you're writing these essays for your application. And you know that schools across the country, this is what they're looking for in the applicant. So you can already, put all of that into your application. You'll be in good shape for that. And then also it's excellent preparation for admissions interviews, because again, those are the things that schools will be looking for.
So for our next question, how does the admissions committee view gap years? Is there any recommended job positions or fields that you would recommend?
Yeah, so gap years, or a lot of people like to call them growth years, are all about you further developing yourself and moving closer to your goal. Again, about roughly 50% of applicants now are taking gap years after their bachelor's. So whatever you decide, if you decide to do that or not to do that, either way is fine. There's no detriment to it. In taking gap years, make sure that you're using them wisely to really advance your own skill sets or your academics, or to work and really learn and grow more. And all of that, again, you can talk about in your application and what you've learned and developed in taking that extra time.
Alrighty, for our next question, what do you think makes UCLA stand out as a medical school? What kind of student will thrive at UCLA?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I would say our medical school, really kind of going back to our training philosophy of not just developing physicians, but developing outstanding physicians, and beyond that, outstanding physicians and physicians that want to really contribute to their community or research or do something more for society. We really feel like society calls on physicians to be much more than just physicians, but really leaders in society and advocating for communities and for all of us. And so we, through our training, are really working with each student to help them develop their passions and what they want to do and how they want to make this a better world, make communities healthier, improve access to healthcare, and much, much more. So students are put into societies when they start the program with an assistant dean. It really helps to kind of flesh things out. And then there are many elements throughout the curriculum that allow you to really explore aspects of medicine, decide what you want to do after you've tried things out, and then help you develop your skills so that you can move on to residency and to a that career of your dreams.
Alrighty, for our next question, do all applicants receive a secondary? If you have received a secondary, when can we expect to hear back in regard to an interview?
All right, yes. So no, not all applicants receive a secondary. So we do an initial screening of the primary application, and then a select group are offered an invitation to complete a secondary. After that, those applications go through a full and thorough, holistic review again before we select a very small group to come for admissions interviews.
Can you talk about people that are veterans that have gone through the, like, were in the military and now coming back and doing some coursework? And just to make a plug, on November 8th, we're going to have 9 veterans doing a talk, medical students that are going to come and talk. So the plug.
Yeah, absolutely. So yes, I think if you are a veteran or even active in the military, it provides excellent experience for the field. There are so many growth opportunities and developmental opportunities that you've gone through. So many leadership opportunities that you've taken advantage of. So we often find that folks who are veterans have, really fantastic applications because of all of the experiences that they can bring forward. Also, veterans often have a really good understanding of what they like to do and the direction they'd like to go in, and so are able to articulate that on the application very clearly. So most definitely, we welcome veterans.
Alrighty, for the next question, if you take in high school AP class, would that satisfy med school requirements, so like AP Bio, for example?
That's a good question, but usually if you're taking high school AP classes, those credits are for your bachelor's program, and medical school is a graduate level program. So it actually wouldn't apply for medical school.
Alrighty, so for the next question, someone asked, do UCLA Prime program applicants have to get into the UCLA David Geffen School of Medicine before being considered for the Prime program, or is it completely separate pools? And also, someone just wanted to know, can you briefly explain the difference between the Prime program and the regular track, or what's the difference between them?
Yeah, of course. So to answer the first question, the 3 tracks that we have, the traditional MD and the Prime Leadership and Advocacy Program are 2 of those. They each have some separate admissions reviews. So when you complete the AMCAS application, you can apply for the Prime LA program. But if you're given an invitation to do a secondary, you could there indicate that you would also like to be given alternative consideration for the traditional MD program. So then you would go through a separate process. One process to review you for the Prime LA program, and a separate process for the traditional MD program, which means that you could even be admitted to both programs and then have to choose which one, or you could be admitted to one or the other, So we usually recommend, if you're going to apply to that, you might as well tick the box to be considered for both. But with that said, the Prime Leadership and Advocacy Program differs from the traditional MD program because it has a special emphasis on leadership and community advocacy, often for underrepresented groups and for communities that, lack access to healthcare. The Prime program is a 5-year program, so it's 1 year longer. There is scholarship funding for that 5th year, but it involves getting the MD degree and a master's degree. So you would actually complete both of those degrees within that 5-year period, and the curriculum is developed so that you can do that. The master's degrees, you have some options to pursue. You can pursue a master's in public health, in public policy. You can get a master's in business, which is an MBA, and some other choices too. So it's a great program to really enable you to get some good experiences in working with a variety of communities, but also prepare to go beyond with your MD and again, another master's degree.
Thank you very much. Are there any differences when considering traditional and non-traditional applicants? And if so, what are they?
Yeah, the consideration would be the same, whether you're a traditional or non-traditional applicant. Again, the application it's your story, it's your life. Each one of you is completely unique, and you all bring so many different experiences to the application and to the field. So for those of you who are non-traditional, in some cases, you may have more years of experience doing some things, such as working, than perhaps a traditional applicant may have, which you can speak to on the application. But, traditional applicants as well have, a lot of time to really get engaged in many different experiences and bring those forward in the application as well.
Just a little follow-up question on that. Regarding coursework and letters of recommendation for someone who's a non-traditional student, let's say it's like 10 years after they completed their bachelor's degree and their prerequisites, as well as getting like letters of recommendation. They don't have any professors recently. What would you suggest in those aspects for non-traditional students?
Yeah. So we don't require letters of recommendation to be from faculty. So if you're 10 years out and it's been a while, since you've been engaging with your professors regularly, that is okay, because what you're going to want to do is for your letters of recommendation, and this is true for anyone, consider what are the main experiences, the significant things you're talking about in your application. If you have 2 years, for example, of working in a research lab, or let's say 10 years, and that's a very significant experience for you, then you're going to want to ask maybe the director of that lab to write a letter of recommendation for you. Not having one, if that's one of your very significant experiences, not having a letter of recommendation from that person might even be seen as a gap, because, why not have that? So I would say identify what those key, just like a stool, what are the key legs of your stool that you're talking about in your application, the major things that you've done, and have letters of recommendation from those. And that will really help support your application, because letters of recommendation are really outside validation of what you're talking about in your application. So you want to make sure that those tie into the core things you're talking about.
Just one thing, if you say your most important activity was whatever, but you don't have a letter for it, then kind of just put that out there.
Yeah.
All right, next question. How are multiple MCAT attempts viewed by UCLA?
Yeah. So at our school, and different schools are different, but just speaking about our school, we look at your highest score. So, sometimes, folks, they may take the MCAT and maybe it didn't go so well and retake it and do better. Or sometimes you may retake it and have a bad day. Just, maybe it goes down. Either way, we know you're capable of that high score. You did it. You might have had a bad day, the next time. That's fine. So we will look at your high score.
For our next question, is there a number or range of hours that should be dedicated to clinical, volunteer, research experience?
Again, going back to, your application is you. It's your story, it's your life. There's no minimum, maximum of anything. We just want to hear who you are. And if you're passionate about this field, if you are passionate about achieving your dream, your goal for your career down the road, you're going to want to be involved in things that have to do with it. Again, I'll go back to, the dream, the, idea of maybe wanting to work with children who have cancer. If that's your dream and you feel just drawn to that and really wanting to make a difference for this community, then I am sure you will find ways to work with children. You will find ways to work with cancer research. You will find ways, to work in clinical settings that get you closer to doing that. So, take the opportunities that come to you. I know that some of you may be, for example, living in areas where there just aren't a lot of opportunities, we get that. And, and that will be reviewed in your application too. But if you have opportunities that come to you, take those opportunities and really move forward with your growth and development toward the field.
All righty, thank you very much. So now there's a couple questions about institutions. Are there any undergraduate schools that give you a higher chance of getting into medical school? Do you look at the rigor of the academic institution when you review grades and transcripts? And also, there's one more thing about, will they consider international students with an undergraduate degree from Europe who are doing a postdoc program in the US?
Okay, great. So two good questions there. Your undergraduate institution, as long as you are able to satisfy our core competencies, which again, we want to make sure that you demonstrate evidence on your transcripts that you can handle the rigor of science courses, biology, chemistry and others, math courses, English courses even, and that you can perform in all of those. So whether you go to an Ivy League university or your local hometown university, all of those are valid. We just want to make sure that you can come into the program and handle the rigor of academics in our program. Now, if you're an international student, we do have the requirement that you have completed a degree in the US or Canada. The reason is because the US and Canada have very similar educational systems, and so that would be recognized for our program. So if you're simply completing a post-bac program, then that wouldn't necessarily fulfill that requirement. But if you have a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, or even a PhD from a US or Canadian institution, that will fulfill the requirement.
All right, for the next question, about financial support, how does the school support the financial needs of its students? Are the scholarships available?
Yeah. So, right, funding your education, funding medical school, that can strike fear in the heart of many fearless people. We completely understand that. Tuition bills are not for the faint of heart, for sure. But with that being said, our medical school, and I can also speak pretty confidently about most medical schools, we are committed to making sure that you can afford medical school. So, um, for starters, every medical every student that's admitted to our school is given an award letter. Now, if we do have scholarship awards available, and so all students are considered for those scholarship awards. If you get an award, then you would see that on your award letter. And if it doesn't cover all of your tuition and living expenses, then we would already be giving you information about the loans that you could use to, to cover both your tuition, fees, and all of your living expenses, including academic expenses that may vary year by year. That will also include your transportation, your health insurance, and much, much more, your food and other things. Um, if you don't have a scholarship, then you would see that in terms of loans that are available. But we take that one step further as well, because we have financial aid counselors that are dedicated to working with our student body. So you, as a student of our school, you are assigned to a financial aid counselor who works with you the entire 4 years that you're in medical school. And they are looking out for external scholarships and any new internal scholarships for you. So they will be actively looking and researching new scholarships. So we often have students in the program who receive scholarship awards even in maybe their second year or third year of the program, to assist with that. Also, we'll be making sure that we get the best loans for you, which would be the ones that have the lowest interest rates, or even forgiveness programs, or those with repayment that would only begin after your residency, for example, or something like that. So we're looking out for you. We make sure that even if you have zero funds at all, that you can afford medical school, you will have enough money to go to medical school, to finish medical school, to take care of all of your needs while you're in medical school. Because we know that afterwards, and after you finish residency, and after you're out becoming a physician, you will have enough money then to pay off any loans that you have. And our indebtedness ratio is much lower than the national rate. So, we're proud of that. We've been doing a lot of work to ensure that our students don't leave with tons and tons of debt. Of course, there may be some, but don't let that scare you. You're making an investment in yourself. Maybe I'm talking too long on the topic, but I just want to make the point. You could easily today go and buy an expensive car, assuming that you have money or that you can get a loan, right? Well, for a similar amount of money, you could invest in yourself and go to medical school. That investment, the car is going to depreciate. It's going to be trash in a few years anyway. But in going to medical school, this is something you will take with you for the rest of your life. It changes who you are. And so it's definitely a worthwhile investment.
I would just say that I think what is that? Almost half of UCLA students are get a very significant scholarship. And I think David Geffen has given, you could Google that, but he's given a lot of money for scholarship. And I know a few of my friends that are going to UCLA medical school on full scholarship. So there are full scholarships out there.
Alrighty, so for our next question, could you go to the slide that had the link for joining the admissions committee meetings, please?
Yeah, we'll post the PowerPoint on there. So, but we also put the link in there as well.
Alrighty, for our next question, can you speak to how the preview score is looked at, and is there a score that is the cutoff if there is one?
Yeah. So, we do require the preview score for the traditional MD program. So if you're applying to the Prime LA program or the MD PhD program, it isn't required. But for the traditional MD, it is part of the application, so it does complete your application. The score is looked at in the process of reviewing your application. It's looked at as part of the holistic process, though. So it's given, equal weight along with everything else. Now this exam is relatively new, a few years old. So you may not find tons of information out there about it, but AMCAS does have a lot of information on the website about it. I believe there's a practice exam out there now. It's not an exam that you really need to study for, things like that. The only study or anything that I think one could even do for it, since it's focused on the core competencies, which I mentioned before, there is that workbook, which is the Anatomy of an Applicant workbook that allows you to work through the core competencies. That would be the best way to study for it. Plus, in doing that workbook, it would prepare you for completing your application too. So you kind of kill a few birds with that one stone by doing it.
Alrighty, for our next question, do letters of recommendation from UCLA faculty, are they viewed any different from one that's not from UCLA faculty?
They're not viewed any differently. Again, the letters of recommendation, the purpose of why do we even require letters of recommendation? The purpose of it is really to, they kind of validate the things that you're talking about in the application. And good letters of recommendation actually tell us even more about you than you did in your application. So, it can bring in some additional information too, which is extremely valuable.
Alrighty, so for our next question, is there an approximate number or percentage of applicants that receive secondaries?
It does vary. I would just say that it's a segment of those who are submitting applications to our school.
Alrighty, for our next question, I'm in my mid-30s and will be nearly 40 by the time the right time to apply comes. I have a previous bachelor's in business administration, and even though I have a strong upward trend my senior year, my GPA will be 2.8, and even getting by in a bachelor's in something like traditionally pre-med like biology, my undergrad GPA will never be competitive. How do I avoid being filtered out right away? Is there really any chance?
Yeah. So medical schools in general, and of course our school too, are looking for folks who, of course, have a passion for the field, have ideas and dreams, and really want to accomplish a lot and help people as physicians. But in addition to that, folks who can handle the academic rigor in medical school. And it's no joke, the first year of medical school or the second year of medical school is I don't know, maybe, what people say, drinking from a fire hose. There's a lot of information that comes at you really fast. So medical schools will often look at your transcripts and say, can this person do it? The last thing a medical school wants to do is to bring someone in and have them fail out. Absolutely don't want to do that. So on the front end, you have to demonstrate that you're ready. So you can do that. We have students that don't have biology bachelor's degrees. Maybe they had a bachelor's degree in something else, maybe in business, maybe in literature, whatever that may be. And that's fine. But you still need to demonstrate that you can you have academic background in the sciences and other things. So you may have to go back, take additional courses, and really demonstrate you can get good grades in those courses. I would recommend, in that case, maybe doing that, going and making sure that you can demonstrate that you can achieve good grades in those core classes, and then bring that forward in your application.
All right, one last question, just a fun one. Oh, I guess there may be another one. What are some cool activities you have seen as an AO? Any like ones that come to mind, like Olympian or something like that?
Oh my goodness. Well, there's so many. And I couldn't even I couldn't even start to think about that. We've had folks doing so many different things, but I think what is impressive is, again, each of you, you're living your lives. So things that you do may not stand out to you as being impressive. They may stand out to us as being incredibly, incredibly impressive. So, take a look through all of the things that you've done. Identify new things that you can get involved in. Actively talk with people to find new opportunities. Talk with your professors, talk with folks on campus. If you get the chance, and can go to a conference, talk with people there too. I know that UC Davis has their pre-med conference that's coming up this fall. That's a great one to go to if you get the chance. All of these things can help you to find new opportunities and really work toward your dreams, and get experience in the things that you're passionate about.
Thank you so much.
I would just add that do what you think is cool and important to you, not what others want, because you rather be doing something that you enjoy that makes you happy rather trying to live someone else's standards. That's just me though, but
I couldn't have said that any better. 100%. You have to follow your heart. That's what this career is about. It's too many years. It's too much effort to not love it. So definitely, follow what you love, and that will lead you in the right direction.
all righty. Well, it's we don't have any more questions, so we don't want to keep you any longer. We had all the questions answered, so that's actually a first. Never had all of our questions answered.
Fantastic.
Thank you very much for making time for us and giving up your Friday evening to come and talk to us, and really appreciate it.
No worries. Thank you all so much. It's been great hearing all your questions, and wish you all a wonderful weekend and good luck and lots of success in everything that you take on going forward. Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone.